Noon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So a buddy of mine and I were talking, and he was feeling a bit frustrated because he sees out there all these people driving these new cars and they have these houses, and he's thinking, man, I am never going to be able to afford that. I can't get there. You know, what is it that these people are doing that they can afford to do this? And I said, hey, you know, you might want to think about that again. Don't envy those people. I said, a lot of them are strung out on credit. I said, you know, the average American out there can't come up with $400 in case of an emergency. And so when I see those, and I told him, I said, when I see those people out there driving the fancy cars and buying those big houses and stringing them, you know, getting so strung out on credit, I think of this story. It's called The Great Duck Dinner, and I got it out of The Creature from Jekyll Island. Now, I don't think G. Edward Griffin actually wrote this story, but the story is really good nonetheless because the it's kind of has these metaphors in it, right? Where the farmer is the Fed, and the people are ducks, and corn is credit, and it's really short, so I'm going to read it to you guys here, right? It goes like this. It says, the story is told of a New England farmer with a small pond in his pasture. Each summer, a group of wild ducks would frequent the pond. But try as he would, the farmer would never catch one. No matter how early in the morning he approached, or how carefully he constructed a blind, or what kind of duck call he tried, somehow those crafty birds sensed the danger and managed to be out of range. Of course, then fall would arrive, the ducks headed south, and the farmer's craving for duck dinner only intensified. Then he got an idea. Early in the spring, he started scattering corn along the edge of the pond. The ducks liked the corn, and since it was always there, they soon gave up dipping and foraging for food on their own. After a while, they became used to the farmer and began to trust him. They could see he was their benefactor, and they now walked close to him with no sense of fear. Life was so easy. They forgot how to fly. But it was unimportant because they were so fat they couldn't have gotten off the water even if they had tried. Fall came, the ducks stayed. Winter came, and the pond froze. The farmer built a shelter to keep them warm. The ducks were happy because they didn't have to fly, and the farmer was especially happy because each week, all winter long, he had a delicious duck dinner. Now, let me read you this last part here from Alan Greenspan, written in 1966, and it says, when business in the United States underwent a mild contraction in 1927, the Federal Reserve created more paper reserves in the hope of forestalling any possible bank reserve shortage. More disastrous, however, was the Federal Reserve's attempt to assist Great Britain, who had begun losing gold to us. The Fed succeeded. It had stopped the gold loss, but it nearly destroyed the economies of the world in the process. The excess credit which the Fed pumped into the economy spilled over into the stock market, triggering a fantastic speculative boom. As a result, the American economy collapsed. So, I think about the quantitative easing programs where they printed up a bunch of money and started ejecting that into the system, right? We had a huge stock market boom. We had a huge boom inside of the housing market, which basically returned housing and then started exceeding the previous highs of them. We had a huge run into student loans and especially corporate debt. So the amount of credit expansion that has happened over the last 10 years is just phenomenal. And the moment that we have a contraction, the whole thing comes undone, okay? And so I think probably the big one to keep your eye on right now is probably corporate debt. I think that one is like I think those guys are the ducks this time. I think they're going to get eaten up. And, you know, one of the things that you could look at is that the corporate debt has just gotten extreme. And one of the kind of the shadow banking things that goes on out there is the credit default swaps, the insurance policy that guarantees the investors getting paid back if these corporations fail to pay their corporate debts, okay? Here's the thing. People are buying those credit default swaps, but they never bought the corporate debt to begin with. It's the same thing that happened to the housing boom, okay? When housing boomed, right, people bought credit default swaps, but they never bought the mortgage-backed securities that these credit default swaps were insuring against, okay? So something very much similar could be happening right now inside of the corporate debt, where these corporate debts are getting to the point that it's just about ready to pop, and people are going to take out a huge insurance policy against that. Okay. Anyway, I thought that story was quite good. This is Uneducated Economist. Talk to you later.